All right, the red live button is on. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to, oh gosh, what are we on now? I think we're on Caffeine Chat number 3 of 4 for January 2021. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And, hello to everybody who's been to a few of these before, and welcome if this is your first time joining us live. My name is Lindsay Barnt. I am the director for the Office of Student Transitions at TCNJ, and we're just so excited to have you here and to be sharing some information with you tonight. So if somebody out there in the world, Robin, if anybody who's watching wants to give me just a thumbs up or in the chat that you can hear me and you can see me, all is good. Before I kind of get started into my presentation tonight, we have a ton of information that I'd like to share with you all as new families, or if you're old families from the fall semester. It's just going to be a really good refresh for some of the services, support services that are on campus for your student, and some information about spring, because that's going to look a little bit different still here as a result of the pandemic. So Robin, thank you. Debbie, hello. Awesome. Okay, great. So I see that I think he can hear me, and that's all good. So before we get officially started with things, I'll share with you my mug. It's like a comment, have to do it. This one has the Disneyland logo on the side. I picked it up. We went in, October of 2017. And we took at the time, 4.5-year-old son, my oldest son. The other one wasn't around yet. And we had to go to Disneyland, not World, not because he told us that we needed to go there, but he is still to this day, a huge fan of the Cars franchise movie. If any of you have sons or daughters out there who are big into that, and they have Radiator Springs. It's one of the amusement park areas. So we took him to Disneyland a couple years ago and had a really great trip. So I'm drinking out of that mug and having some fun memories of that tonight. So, and I'm sure you're all thinking, right? So he will be 8 in April this year. And I'm sure you are all thinking that you could remember your student, now first-year student or transfer student TCNJ. I'm sure you could remember when they were 8. Like that was just like yesterday. So I'm told the time goes fast, and trying to savor all the moments with it. All right, so I think I'm fairly confident that you all can hear me, and so let's go ahead and get started. I thought that we would do an overview and a top line kind of general blanket of information for a couple of different areas on campus. I'm going to start off with the Office of Student Accounts. They are our billing people, our parking services people, our ID card services people, just some awesome colleagues that work in that office. So some top line information and some updates for you there. Talk briefly about our Office of Career and Leadership Development. I think I mentioned this in our conversation the last time, but it's a huge reason that students and families choose TCNJ, right? We have really great outcomes when it comes to getting placement into not only regular, full-time employment opportunities, but also graduate programs. And that starts now, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about those services just to give you an introduction to them. I want to talk a little bit about our Health and Wellness Suite. So that's a division within the Student Affairs portfolio that covers, a host of different offices: student health services, mental health services, recreation, religious, spiritual life. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Our Dean of Students office, which has a whole complementary series of offices to support students in a different way over there, including our care report, dispute resolution, and conduct, and those types of people and services, I should say. And who am I wrapping up with? Oh, parent and family programs. I thought that would be a really nice thing to kind of end with, to chat a little bit about the support services for you, for the parents that are watching tonight. So tons of links in this PowerPoint. I think I said last week I would put the old one up, and I did not. So making a Post-it note here that I will post both the last presentation and this one in there. So don't panic if you don't want to feverishly write down the links. You can also just obviously go back to this recording once it's over and grab them, or I'll post the PDFs on my website as well. But let's go ahead and get started if that sounds good to you. Let me just share my screen real quick. I won't be able to answer questions that you're submitting in real time, because when I share my screen, I stop seeing myself. So I'll go through all the presentation, and then I'll circle back and we'll answer questions at the end. And then we'll talk a little bit about what the last caffeine chat's going to entail at that point. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay. So here is our caffeine chat. I think I just went through. So here's the topics tonight that we're going to cover: student accounts, career leadership development, health and wellness, the Dean of Students Suite, and then our parent and family programs. So a couple things fall under the Office of Student Accounts that I wanted to talk about. The first is billing. So this first link is the website to the actual billing website for TCNJ. The second one is the calendar, and that's really helpful. It's just a good tab for you to kind of keep tabs, I guess, mark as a bookmark so that you can kind of keep track as the semesters go on. It's just really helpful in kind of letting you know, okay, if the bills were released on X date, they're gonna be due on Y date. For spring 2021, and I confirmed this with the director for student accounts earlier today, the students' bills are going to be due on January 29th. So that's next Friday, I believe. The bills are due. But that calendar will be really helpful kind of going forward to answer any of those questions that you have. The next link that I provided for you was just a list of payment options. So you have a couple different ways to pay your bill. Credit card is one, e-check or electronic transferring of funds is another one. I do believe they do some wire transfers. There's information about wire transfer on there. Personal check is obviously, you can mail that, and that's another option. So it kind of, that website gives you a whole host of the different ways that you can pay your bill. And then as a subset to that, I also included a link to our installment plan process. So we do give students the option of paying the tuition over, I believe it's normally 5, but this year with COVID, I believe it's 6 installments. So January to June would be that time period for our spring admits and for our students that are in the spring semester. But that installment plan link will give you a lot more information about how you sign up for that. Obviously what the cost is going to be. I don't believe there's fees. If there's fees, it'll be listed down there as well. But if the installment plan is something that you're interested in pursuing as a payment option, that link will give you a lot more information there. And then the only other thing that Scott wanted me to pass along to you is that they are still experiencing delays in receiving payments as a result of the little bit of the mess with the U.S. Postal Service right now. So I don't know about you, but I received holiday cards last week that were mailed weeks ago. So they're still receiving payments. If you sent it, in via USPS in late December or early January, they're still processing those. So don't panic yet. And then, obviously reach back out to them if you still haven't heard, next week or the week after or something of that nature. So they're still processing those. But I think that this will be really helpful, hopefully, for you in terms of just navigating questions that you may have pertaining to billing at TCNJ. Another area that our Office of Student Accounts oversees is parking services. So 2 things about that. They are going to be emailing all of the students later this week. It's either going to be later this week or early next week regarding how to register their car or their vehicle to be on campus. Every student, whether they're a residential or a commuter student, if you want to park on campus, you're going to have to register your vehicle and you're going to have to purchase a decal. So pricing and the process for doing that is all going to be emailed to students. Again, it'll either be later this week or beginning of next week. So have your student keep an eye out for that. Again, TCNJ email address. So for my new families, don't forget, they have to be checking that one. I also thought it was helpful to just pull up a link and just link you to the parking map at TCNJ. So if that's helpful, if you have a residential student who's living on campus, they will have some type of parking area depending on which residence hall they're living in. But then we have several designated commuter lots as well. None of the parking lots are changing as a result of anything that's going on campus for the spring semester. I know that there was a question, I think it was on the 2024 parent page, about if they would have enough spots for commuters since all of the first-year students for just this semester would be allowed to. The answer is yes. There's plenty of parking just due to our decreased capacity numbers with students that are living on campus. So plenty of room. There's going to be no changes. Commuter lots are still going to be commuter lots. Residential lots will be residential lots. But that map might be helpful to kind of review for that. The other nice thing is that they usually suspend parking, ticketing in parking for the first week or 2 of the semester, just understanding that a lot of our new students that are applying may not be able to pick up their decals right away. And they usually do they have a table in the student center and they usually do a massive kind of pickup at the start of the semester, which obviously they're not going to be able to do thanks to COVID. So more information about how they're going to be picking up their decals will be coming via email. But I think the important thing is not to stress if you're a student who's going to be commuting for a flex class that you have in that first week or 2 of this semester and you don't have everything wrapped up perfectly with your decal, don't panic. We normally suspend parking so that the ticketing won't be an issue. So it's just a brief update on parking and then ID services, card services. So I checked with him. I think there's about 60 or so. new spring students, and I only have like 110 of you, so it's a little over 50%, that still have to submit your photo and get that approved for your ID card. So the link to submit that's in here. I will likely also be sending out another email to students reminding them about that later this week or next week, just to encouraging them to get that in to submit. You're gonna need your ID card for everything, to get in, swipe in to get into the parking lots, to be able to park on campus. Residential students, obviously, to get into your residence hall rooms, you're gonna need your ID card. Getting into the dining halls or purchasing things in the convenience store, just using it for eateries on campus. And then sometimes printing goes to that as well. Obviously, it's your ID card. It's a really important thing to have, and we want to make sure that you get your photo approved. So make sure you go to that link and submit it. The other really important thing, take 2 minutes to read through the FAQs. Can't stress that enough. Can't do a selfie. You have to have, even my gray background is not going to be great. It's like a white background. That you need, but there's just a 4 or 5 little kind of steps and rules before you take your photo. You can't wear sunglasses, but it might be an important thing, and it'll save your student a heck of a lot of time, because you don't want to have them keep, I mean, I had students last summer who submitted like 4 or 5 different photos until they got it. So just take 2 minutes to read the instructions and you'll be good to go. The student accounts office is located in this building right here. It's Green Hall room 119, and they will actually be open on Saturday the 30th and Sunday the 31st. So that weekend before classes start, between 12 and 3 p.m. for students to be able to pick up their IDs. So more information, again, coming from that office on that. But I just wanted to share those updates with you and kind of give you a general overview of, sometimes it's called the bursar office in other institutions, but it's the Office of Student Accounts here at TCNJ, and those are the types of services that they provide our students, and just a really great bunch of people who work over there. All right, moving on to career and leadership development. This is a really exciting area of TCNJ, one, just because they're awesome over there and how they support our students when it comes to preparedness and ultimately becoming an alumni and graduating and doing amazing things in the world, is that they're merging. So, within the last year and a half or so, it was 2 different areas, the Career Center and then the Office of Leadership. They've merged together. And Shannon, who is the director of that area, she had just joined, I think she was a year at TCNJ back in December. So really exciting. We already had such a great, strong program in both of those areas. And it's been really neat to kind of see, they're kind of turning a corner here and doing some really cool collaborative work together, to be even better for supporting our students. So the link to the Career Center I listed there is just career.tcnj.edu. We have a liaison model here at the college for the Career Center. So essentially there is a liaison for every academic school. And then I believe some liaisons share some schools depending on the size. So there will be somebody who works in that office. So for example, off the top of my head, Audrey, who works over there, she's the liaison for the School of Education. So all of the education students have a person in the Career Center that they can go, many people, but one specifically who is just much more kind of involved into the detail and the minutia of the particular schools. And from a recruiting standpoint, what really works well, what's the support that they need to be able to be successful. So the liaison model is really great. And the women, I believe it's all women actually over there now who work over there. Many of them have been at TCNJ for many years, and they're absolutely tremendous at what they do. So that part's kind of neat. And some of the services that they offer, so major options in career exploration, I think especially most of the people I know, most of the students I know at TCNJ, they are so committed, and they come in and they think they know exactly what they need to do, and they have to have it mapped out, and they know exactly the internships they want or the experiences they want, or they know that the ultimate goal is X. And for those people, that's really great. But I want to acknowledge that there are so many students that, college should be about exploring, right? There are students who come in and say, I have no idea what I want to do. And they're going to take a course here, and all of a sudden a lightning bulb's going to hit that, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do in some capacity with my life. We also have a lot of students, and I'm a great example, who maybe they study for a year or 2 and they come in thinking, I know what I want to do. And then they take some classes and they're like, ooh, I don't know about that, right? So I think that, really just celebrating the fact that that exploring career options and exploring different options within your major, or potentially even, having a change of heart and switching direction, is not a bad thing. It should be celebrated. And there's lots of great services that the Career Center provides students that are in that boat. So they do interest inventories, online assessments like Focus 2, and then of course individual appointments. So that's a really timely piece for some of the younger students, the ones that are, first years and sophomores, mentors who are in that boat. And then obviously, and maybe more so for this group, because the most of the students that come and join us in the spring semester are transfer students. They have a little bit more, they've had an opportunity to do that. They have a little bit more direction potentially with where they want to go. It's still useful and still helpful for them to connect with if they want to early. Resume, curriculum, and review, that's a no-brainer. Every college should have a career center that's working on helping students develop their resumes and show their best selves. I can speak, candidly to that because my students that work on my staff, I have them submit an updated resume every year, and I'm looking at how are you talking about your experiences at TCNJ as an orientation leader or as a Griffin, on my student staff. Like, how are you presenting that in your resume? And then next step, how are you articulating that, taking those experiences and articulating them when you are in an interview situation? So I know that I'm even just me as one supervisor on the campus who, has involvement with the Career Center, but by no means am I a career, expert. I'm constantly challenging them to think about that. And I know that the resume, curriculum, the review, and then the interview preparations are really a big part to kind of what we do for the students and getting them prepared to go out there and to get these awesome opportunities. So internships, career fairs, all those events and, things on campus are really great. So they do 2 career fairs that are broadly based, for anybody to come in from an employer standpoint to recruit. But they also do specific events as well for individual schools. So our education interview days are really popular for the School of Education students, and that's just primarily, school districts across the state and in the region that are coming to recruit. They'll also do meet and greets. I know that they're very popular with like the School of Engineering will do an engineering meet and greet, or science will do chemistry, computer science. So lots of unique opportunities to really kind of allow for that career development and just being exposed to alumni and businesses in the area that are looking to recruit for internships and full-time job opportunities. The last thing I want to mention for Career Center is Handshake. This, I put it in all caps. I should have linked it. So maybe I'll go back before I post this and add the link. But your student immediately in the first semester that they're here should sign up for Handshake. That is how they are communicating with employers, applying for opportunities, doing the resume reviews. It's kind of the electronic home-based tool that everything kind of goes in and out of from the Career Center's perspective. So Handshake is something that should be a common thing out of your student's mouth. And I think that, so have them sign up for that, maybe not right now, but a couple weeks into the semester, say, hey, did you sign up for Handshake yet? Like, what's going on with that? It's not too early to start to have that conversation. I tell families all the time and students all the time, you do not need to wait until junior year to go in and to have that first conversation with somebody in the Career Center about what you want to do for an internship or something, and outside of the classroom experience. It's too late. That first semester, that first year, you really want to get out there and see what that's all about. And a lot of, some majors in some schools actually build it into the curriculum. So again, it all depends. I know psychology is a really great example. They have career development come in, and it's built into kind of a seminar course that all the psychology students take. They take like a 0.25 credit course every year or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but in particular, but just know that the support is there, that the Career Center works so closely with the 7 academic schools and just really trying to provide as many opportunities as possible to get your students experience outside the classroom, and ultimately what that end goal is, whatever that is for your student. The leadership, I just put the link to the leadership website. So she runs some Dr. Rana runs some amazing programs over there. So the Leadership Development Program is actually a student organization on campus that does leadership trainings and events and opportunities throughout the academic year. The Emerging Leaders Institute's really kind of specific and fine-tuned to some of our younger students and those that are kind of, again, emerging into leadership roles and really kind of setting a good foundation to be ultimate leaders and other opportunities on campus. And then she runs 2 large events, the Fall Leadership Conference, which is open to everybody, and then Leadership, which is really, it's a week-long event that typically takes place in January. Unfortunately, it didn't happen this year. But just, I think the key takeaway of leadership, we have an expectation of our students that they're going to be leaders inside of the classroom, and that's a given. But really challenging, the students to think about how do you want to be a leader outside of the classroom, and what kind of experiences do you want? And you can find them in a host of different ways, but the leadership office is a great opportunity and a good place to start if you don't know where to go for those. So that's a little brief snippet about career and leadership development. Moving on to health and wellness. So this is a portfolio, as I mentioned, it's an entire portfolio within the Division of Student Affairs at TCNJ, and it oversees a host of different offices. So the two big ones, the first is student health services. You should be very familiar with them by now. You have to submit, forms. Oh, those were due last week. Oh, golly. Okay, so if you didn't, make sure you're getting on those health services forms. I know that there's been a lot of extra layers of things this semester. If you are living on campus or you're commuting to attend a class on campus because of the flu shots and the COVID testing and whatnot, I imagine that we will be addressing a few more of those questions in the next caffeine chat on Sunday night. But we obviously have appointments, and in the next slide, I'll talk about some changes for the spring 2021 semester. But we have a whole suite of services that are health services related there, and mental health services is the other large one. So this used to be counseling and prevention services, but this kind of details all of the support mechanisms for students who may be struggling with mental health concerns. The cool thing, we have obviously licensed psychologists or psychologists on staff. And clinicians, I think that's the word that I was looking for. I think the really cool thing about mental health services is the types of different offerings that they provide our students. So counseling, they do some short-term, obviously one-on-one individual counseling, but they also have gaining popularity are peer or group workshops, right, and group counseling efforts, and they revolve around different types of topics. So the one that I always like to mention, in January, since most of the students coming in are transfers, is that they have a transfer, support group. So coming to TCNJ as a student who has done college credits and had different experiences at another institution, there are some challenges there that the students can face, and I think that having that group in particular has been really beneficial to students. And I've had some of the Griffins on my staff attend that as well, just to kind of, know that you're not alone, right? I think that's the overarching thing to a lot of this stuff, is that if you're feeling a certain way about things, you are nowhere near the only person. And sometimes for some people, they need that individual attention, but for others, that group dynamic is really powerful for them. The other great thing about mental health services is that they have peer educators, and they do tons of really great programming on campus. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be information that comes to your student, but that's kind of what other institutions would refer to as like a CAPS, type setting there. A couple of other smaller ones I want to point out. So they're small, but they're still super important. We do have an alcohol and drug education program on campus. Our Office of Anti-Violence Initiatives is absolutely amazing at providing support, twofold. One, providing support to survivors of sexual assault and power-based personal violence, but also in prevention efforts. There are two, I'm going to totally mess this up. Domestic Violence Awareness Month is one of them, and I believe there's another one in December and in April. But the amount of prevention work they do on campus and getting the word out about sexual assault and prevention efforts, it's just tremendous. So they do an amazing job over there. Both of those areas also have, peer educators and opportunities, again, to kind of tying back to those leadership opportunities. We have a collegiate recovery program for students that are currently in recovery. That's just absolutely tremendous. I've had, students on my staff from that area as well. And again, programming and outreach and support and those things of nature. Recreation. So recreation falls under health and wellness. That makes sense. That's a couple different things. So the fitness center, we do have a fitness center. It's located in Campus Town. So it's, I guess, on campus, but kind of off campus. We run it, but it's kind of right across Metzger. It's across from Trenton Hall near the TCNJ bookstore. That will be open with limited hours. I'm looking to get some more details on that before Sunday's chat, because somebody had asked me about that a few weeks ago and I didn't have super specific, so I will look to do that. But we do have a recreation, we do have a fitness center. They also do group fitness classes. I do believe that those are online now, but there is an app that the students can download that they would be able to do fitness classes online if they were interested in doing that. Also, falling under recreation is our intramural and our club sports programs, which obviously, again, limited capacity for this semester, but the hope is that, as we ease back or hopefully out of the worst of this pandemic, recreation is a huge way for students to, not have as much stress and to stay healthy and to make great choices. And so there's a lot of different opportunities through that recreation area for that. So that link will get you to some of those. And then lastly is religious and spiritual life. So we have a host of different faith-based organizations on campus. that do, weekly services, I guess would be a good way to say that, that's more inclusive, and other opportunities. So just know that if you are somebody as a student, or if your student would like to continue and get involved in some type of, religious club or organization on campus, that they have an opportunity to do that. That website will be very helpful for them. So I know that was a very top line overview, but I think it's just really important that the key takeaway from this, this part of the presentation is just that when we think about health and wellness for our students, it is all of those things. This is my favorite graphic that anybody on campus has. I tell everybody that, and A, just because I love the colors and I think it's so pretty, but B, it just really speaks to how many different components go into the wellness of us as individuals, right? And if one of those is out of whack, all of the other ones can very quickly get out of whack. So we take a really holistic approach to health and wellness at TCNJ, and there are the people who work in these offices and in this portfolio are some of the most selfless, unbelievably supportive people I have ever met. And it's really just an honor to know them, and the work that they do day in and day out for our students is just tremendous. And speaking about that work, because I did reach out to the AVP for that area just to ask for any updates, he sent me back this information. So I think the really important takeaway for spring 2021 is that whether it's a student health services appointment, or if you need to make an appointment for mental health services, you're doing that through OWL. OWL's the online wellness link, OWL, that you're submitting your student, or you are submitting your health forms to. It's right on the TCNJ Today homepage. They will be open, but walk-in services are not going to be available for either of those areas. So there is going to be staff from those areas on campus, but it's very limited, and they're not taking any walk-ins. So if your student needs help, though, or if you need help, if you're the student who's watching this or listening to this, please make an appointment and go. I know, I know it's an added barrier here because of the virtual piece, but I promise you, we have such amazing staff that you're going to be better off if you reach out to make that appointment. So they will be open. The hours are on there. The medical visits for health services will be conducted primarily via telemed, unless it absolutely needs to be in person, with the COVID, concerns and precautions and all of that. But just a reminder, so that's kind of what we're dealing with for the spring 2021 semester. And then again, more information about what fall will look like will go out to the students in later summer. Okay. Moving on to the Dean of Students office. So a couple things I really want to highlight here for you there. The first is the TCNJ Cares page. I don't want to say initiative because it's just so vital and core to who we are as an institution. But essentially, we have a mechanism in place called the Care Report, and I did complete the link and send the link there so that you can see it. It allows any TCNJ faculty, staff, student, alumni, parent, you name it, if you have a concern about a student at TCNJ, this is a super simple form that you fill out. It can be, anonymous or non-anonymous, and they will be assigned, the forms go, and then the reports are assigned to a case manager, and then that case manager reaches out. The reasons that you would want to submit for that form they vary, right? These are not, I'll step back. Our case managers are not clinicians, right? So if it's something that requires a clinical diagnosis or some type of elevated to that kind of next level from a mental health perspective, that's gonna be referred to the mental health services area. But simple things, right? If you get sick, right? I had pneumonia my first semester of college. I wish I had known that these types of things were out there. So if you get sick, if you end up in the hospital for a couple of days, right? If you are just like in the middle of having a really tough time, just give them a heads up. You can write one for yourself if you want to. If you give them a heads up, they will go and contact all of your faculty members and say, hey, so-and-so has been having, hospitalized or has been really sick the next couple of days. She's going to need they're going to need extension on X, Y, or Z. They can facilitate that conversation with all your faculty members so that you can really rest and recuperate and get better, and then so that you can get back into the classroom. So that's like a very kind of basic, simple example of how the Care Report helps. Another is just If you are just concerned about a student because they've missed class a couple times and they seem a little bit off. I know that for me, homesickness, oh my gosh, beginning of the semester, homesickness is huge. We get lots of students, we get lots of reports into care for students that just, they're just having a really hard time with the adjustment. And, maybe it's just a matter of sitting down and having a conversation with that student saying, hey, okay, well, here are your resources and here are your options, and what can we do to kind of support you and help making the transition a little bit easier. I know that for me personally, I use this example too. About a year or two ago, I had a student whose grandmother passed away, and she just, they were very particularly close, and she had come to my office to talk to me just to give me a heads up, and I could just tell that she was like super upset. And how do you navigate trying to your grief with still kind of maintaining, your excellence and maintaining going through the classroom? And I told her, I was like, I'm gonna put in a report for you, and you don't have to go, you don't have to reach out to them. They will reach out to you if you don't want to. But I'm concerned. I just want to make sure that that do you need to talk to somebody, about the grief, or is there something that they can do to support you? Because the next 2 weeks in particular might be a little bit rough for you. So it's a whole host of different reasons. I did, that we can submit the care report, but I think it just really speaks to this underlying belief that we look out for one another, that we care for one another here at TCNJ, and that we have this amazing opportunity to really make sure that people feel supported and get help when they need it. The AVP or the Dean of Students, Dr. Jordan Draper, when she gave me my updates for the spring semester today, she let me know that the most common submissions last semester, so fall 2020, were academic related, right? So it doesn't even need to be kind of from it could be a social perspective or whatnot, but these were academic related. We had students that were struggling significantly with that move to the virtual space and having to take all of their classes online and coping with that. So there were academic, both of the top two reasons were academic focused in nature. And I'll sneak out of my presentation at the end. I'll circle back and I'll see specifically what she said. But anyway, I could go on and on about the care report, but just know that, it's really kind of built into creating a culture of care, and it's kind of who we are for that. Other areas that fall under the Dean of Students office: student conduct and dispute resolution services. So hopefully, I make this joke all the time, but I really mean it. They are some of the awesomest people over there, and the nicest people, but they're like the nicest people that you don't want to see on campus, because if you're seeing them, there might be a problem. But we do have a student conduct and dispute resolution process. And, some amazing colleagues who work over there, and that falls under the Dean of Students suite, as does Title IX. So if we do experience situations with sexual assault on campus, or any that fall under the purview of Title IX, we have a due process, and we have people on campus who facilitate that process for us there. Specific to 2021, so the Dean of Students office is located in the Brower Student Center, room 220. They will be open Monday through Thursday for the semester, but all appointments will be conducted virtually unless arranged by a staff member. So again, you're not going to be able to just show up and kind of walk in like you normally would. If you have a crisis or you need an urgent appointment during business hours, you can call that telephone number listed for next steps. And then any questions or concerns can be directed to Jordan, who's our AVP and our Dean of Students there. The care referrals, again, I just spoke about that at length. There's a link there. The shop at TCNJ is something that falls under their purview. So that is essentially like a food pantry or a food bank. So we do have students on campus that have food insecurities, and that's an opportunity, if they fill out that request form, to be able to go over and to select items. I guess they were at one point able to accommodate specific requests. I guess that's a no now with everything that's going on. And then lastly, the emergency fund. So we have some amazingly generous alumni and current students, and so when we do our 1 or 2 kind of times a year where we ramp up and ask for donations to things, the emergency fund is an option for people to do, and that provides financial support during the semester for students. So if you or someone that needs financial support during the semester, that would be an opportunity to fill out that link and you select the emergency fund. And I'm sure that they have examples and criteria for what would constitute for that on the website. So those are some updates about the Dean of Students. And then lastly is the Parent and Family Program. So if you're watching this, hopefully you're, a parent. I actually do have some students that will watch as well. But we have a really nice little Parent and Family Program here at TCNJ. It's run by Susie Arecchio, who works in the Vice President for Student Affairs office. The links I've provided. So the first is, to get connected. She sends out quarterly newsletters to the students, there's also, or to the parents, there's also a link to the official Facebook parent page. I know there's plenty of unofficial pages out there, but there's one that we run, and that would, that Get Connected site will hook you up into all those. The old quarter newsletters you can find on that link, but I know that the next one's going out next month, so you're not late. If you sign up now, you'll be able to get that, and you can read some of the others. There was a gap. I think it hasn't gone out in a year because Susie just became a parent herself. So if you're watching this later, Susie, congratulations and welcome back. So she just came back in January from leave. In addition to, getting connected, they have lots of links to resources, some transitioning to college articles, which I know maybe for my transfer families may not be totally applicable, but I think there's still some good stuff in there, more so for the first years, but the transfer families might be able to find some good nuggets there. And then, of course, opportunities to serve on the Parent Family Association Executive Board. And then lastly, we do typically host a Parent and Family Weekend. It usually takes place in the fall. We did not host it this year. In large part also in addition to the pandemic because Susie was on leave. But, we hope that returns. And that's always a really nice weekend. We try to pair it with, over an overlapping weekend where there's other things going on and athletics and those types of things. So if you're interested, those are just some really good links and resources to check in on too. And then I'll kind of skip this. I'll talk about it, towards the end, I guess. But, our next chat, our last one is going to take place on Sunday. I have on my list, at least so far, to cover what's going to be happening with winter orientation, some just kind of general pre-semester information, any kind of changes from when I met last couple of weeks, with COVID happening and ongoing because that virus is always constantly changing. So are sometimes plans that we have in place that may make sense, a couple weeks ago and don't make sense now. So any changes or updates I need to kind of share with the families, and then answering your last minute questions. So I will be sending out an email either tomorrow or Friday that has the opportunity to collect questions from you because I want to make the most of our time. And again, that's just kind of how to find me. That was the same as before. So let me go back and see if okay, I'm back. There we are. All right. So that was a lot. I just talked for like 35 straight minutes. I'm a little okay, I'm going to grab some water. I know that most of that should just be review, and there's a lot of information to kind of digest in one sitting, but the hope was that just by looking at the links, if they apply to you, if you want to learn more information about some of those, that you have it all in one space to be able to do that. So question time. And let me go back and see who I missed, if I missed any. Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, Diane. Okay. How would a student go about requesting a change of major for next fall if they're studying remotely from home? Who should they email? He would like to change from comp sci to finance. Okay. Comp sci. All right. Let me pull up for you while I wait for other questions to come in. Okay. Are they affairs? Okay. So here's the deal with major changes. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this up and talk to you at the same time. So give me 1 second because I'd like to be able to get you right to the PDF. Did we find it? Yes. Change of major information. Okay. And this is beautiful. Okay. So a couple years ago, so I'll take a step back, Diane. So essentially, it all depends on where they are now and where they want to go, right? So for some, each of the major change policies and the process to do so, it was individually done by the department. So in some cases, if you came up, they were like, oh, no problem. Here's a form, fill it out. You're good to go, right? Bada bing, bada boom. Others at the college, you have to apply and it's an application process and you had to have a certain GPA and you needed to take maybe a prerequisite or two. So there's still a lot of inconsistency, but what they did about 2 years ago, which was huge for people like me answering this question, is that they came up with a beautiful PDF that lists every single department and what you need to do in order to transfer in, or to apply to transfer in, or to request the change of majors. So I have that for you now. And there is the beautiful PDF. I would encourage your son, if he is interested, for next fall. I know that the registration period for fall classes is going to be it's typically the first 2 weeks in April. So I would encourage your son to have a conversation, to reach out to the department, obviously do the research, see what he needs to do, see if it's even possible to do it for the fall, or does he need to take prereqs to do that to get in for the spring. But I would have him start there. And then I think they have contact information for who to contact in the new department if you have questions or specifics. But I would have him start doing that in like February, because if there's a chance that he wants to apply or to be able to make that switch before the registration period starts in April for the fall semester. So hopefully that's helpful. But that they put that website, that PDF together, and it was a huge lifesaver. All right. Let's see. Dave. Hi, Dave. When is the link for parking spaces coming out? Yeah. So they said they were going to email either the end of this week or the beginning of next week. Emailing the students to the TCNJ email address. Go back, make sure they're checking the TCNJ email, and that will give them instructions on how to register their vehicle and then purchase the decal. I will say it's very cute because the system that they use for that is CARS. I think the acronym is CARS. I think it's Automobile Registration System or something like that. It's cute, but yeah, so it's a system. They have it. I think they're just probably uploading it on the back end and fixing some things. Also, because the first year students that are living on campus one time only are allowed, if they would like to, they can bring a car on campus. So I think they're just making some tweaks to that. So your student should hear end of this week or beginning of next week. If you don't get it by like Wednesday of next week, you can shoot me an email and let me know, and I'll hunt them down. So hopefully that helps. All right. I know that sometimes this is a little bit slow. Hi, Michelle. Okay, so that just came in, hopped on late, so I apologize. You don't have to apologize for being late. I thank you, everybody, for joining me a little bit early. It was twofold that I moved the time up a little bit. And normally I was starting at 8. I started at 7:30 tonight. One, just wanted to be respectful if anybody wanted to catch the new president's remarks. I think he's supposed to do so at like 8:30, and I didn't want to conflict with that. I was like hitting myself in the head the other day. I was like, why did I plan this for inauguration day? Anyway, but then I have a winter course. So I don't know if I mentioned this to the group, but I'm also a student at TCNJ. Fun perspective there. I'm getting my master's in business here. So we take a winter course, and my final presentation and paper are due tomorrow. So I have to meet with my group immediately after I'm with all of you. So thank you very much for jumping in a little bit early tonight. So where can we find info on the students who live on campus can eat? Where can we find info on where students who live on campus can eat meals? Yes, Michelle, great question. So I think I might have mentioned this, but there was so much going on in that first caffeine chat early on. So eateries are going to be open or closed based on the number of students that live on campus. So when we're at full capacity and everybody's on campus, all of the eateries are open, right? So that's the main dining hall, which is ICOF Hall. That's where the primary dining space is. But all of our other little eateries and our cafes and the convenience store, the library cafe, there's education cafe, there's cafes across campus. Also, the student center has a whole bunch of different eateries. So what happened is that obviously we're single occupancy, so that lowered it a bit. And we knew, I think there's, a couple that were definitely like, we're not going to open those for the spring. Now the numbers game is now that over the last 2 weeks, we've seen a decrease in the number of students. We did the survey, and a lot of people kind of had to make that decision, we did the caffeine chat, and a lot of students decided, had to think about, okay, well, am I going to live on campus? Am I not going to live on campus? So the numbers have been going down, but now they're kind of just figuring out where they land. And, let's say, for example, they go under, I'm totally making up numbers here, but let's say the number was like 1,600 to have these places open. And if you drop to 1,599, we're going to lose 1 or 2. That's where we're figuring it out now. So we kind of have been waiting for the numbers of on campus to stabilize in order to figure out, okay, these are the specific eateries that are going to be open. I will be sharing that information hopefully with you on Sunday. So I have it on my list to reach out to the powers that be over there, Emily and Karen, I believe, in some of those amazing people, just say, okay, where are we? Like, what information am I sharing with the parents on Sunday about what exactly is going to be open and what is not? So thank you for your patience, but it's been a little bit of an up and down game there. Obviously, the ICOF, Atrium and ICOF Hall, that will be open. That is the primary dining hall. We have students living on campus. So that will be open for the spring semester. It's just a matter of where are those other areas and what are the hours going to be for them. So I hope to have more for you. Totally valid question. Another question that came up for on the parent page earlier today for the class of 2024 was how we're feeding them for like orientation, I will cover that on Sunday as well. But technically the meal plans for if you're living on campus go into effect with brunch on Sunday. And I will be covering, my office will be covering dinner on Saturday night for everybody who lives on campus. And then for the students that are moving on campus on Friday, the 29th, who are staying, because that was a move-in slot where they would stay and it was held primarily for people who live, more than an hour and a half or 2 hours away, we'll be covering some meals for them. So I'll have more details about kind of that winter orientation type weekend at the Caffeine chat on Sunday. So that was a lot, but I hope that helped explain those things. Okay, Dave, thank you. You're welcome. I hope that was helpful. Kim, hi Kim. Where will you be posting this PowerPoint with all the links? Yes. Let me send you my website. Let me pull it up here 1 second. Okay. So this is my main website, and what I think I'm going to do is stick them. I definitely will do this. You're going to see, and I'll repost this as well. There's a Spring 2021 tab. That is where I will post the presentation with the links. So I will stick it right there, shortly after the presentation's over. Give me till tomorrow, just in case. All right. And then Dave, one more question. We heard ICOF is closing on the 30th. What will dining options be for that day? So didn't even see that you posted that. So nice. So they are going to, again, I'm still working out how that's going to work, but the dining hall opens on Sunday with brunch, right? I think it's like 10 a.m. or something like that. My office will be covering the meal for dinner on Saturday night. I'm fleshing out what that's going to look like. So I will hopefully have that done by Sunday and I can share it with all of you. And then again, the 29th, if your student's moving in on Friday and staying, we're going to cover, I think it'll be likely dinner and then brunch. So dinner on Friday and then brunch on Saturday for the students. And then ICOF will open business as usual on Sunday, the 31st. So hopefully that helped answer the questions about the gaps in between. Okay. I think I'm all caught up on questions, so I'll give everybody another minute or two. It's so hard using I use a service called StreamYard because it allows me to go to YouTube and I can have literally hundreds or thousands of people watch me, live, and it's not limited because Zoom, we have certain limits and restrictions on the number of people. But it makes it really impersonal because I just see me the whole time, which is, not great. I would like to see you all. And part of the fun for the Spend a Day events in October was that I got to actually put some faces to these names that would always be, asking questions and popping up in the group chat, which is so nice. But a little unfortunate because it's less personal than I like, but a means to an end, I guess. So, all righty, let's see. Okay, I have 8:15. I don't have any other questions. I will stick around. Oh, I will do one more thing for everybody, as I always do. I am a little behind on emails. I know that I have probably about 15 or 20 that just came in the last couple of days, but I will try my best to get to those tomorrow. But that's my email that I just put in there. So studenttransitions@tcnj.edu. Any generic questions that you have, even if it's specific, if I can't answer them, 9 times out of 10, I know the person that you need to talk to get that answer. I know that, again, all of our support offices across campus, even though they're virtual, and I think this is such a huge takeaway, everybody I mentioned tonight, everybody I mentioned last week that works in, admissions and records and registration and all of those, the support services across campus, Accessibility Resource Center, Center for Student Success for the academic side, yes, everybody's in the virtual space, but they're so responsive and they are so just clamoring to kind of meet the new students, interact with new students, be helpful for students, all students and not just the new ones. So don't, I think the biggest takeaway is just reach out to them, send an email. I hope most people aren't as bad as me because my email last semester was awful. Trying to keep up on it, but everybody's got a lot going on. But we're just thrilled that your students are coming, and we're just thrilled that we're able to support them and help them. So don't hesitate to put out an email, and if you do and you don't hear anything back, let me know. And that's something that I can do to kind of help. So, all right, I think that's it. I will stick around. I have to hit the end broadcast button. But I'll stick around for another minute or two in case you have questions. If not, feel free to just email the studenttransitions@tcnj.edu. But otherwise, so this coming Sunday, only 4 days, is going to be a big one. I invited everybody from this year, so the fall 2020 families as well as the spring 2021 families. And again, we're going to cover some of the more details and just kind of fine tuning what we're doing with winter orientation. talking a little bit about, just clearing up if you still have lingering questions about the COVID testing, living on campus, residential stuff, commuting to campus. This is not going to be, strictly housing related things. So if you have a commuter or if you yourself are commuting, you can still, watch. It's not going to be very focused, as heavily on housing, although I'm sure we'll get a few questions. Just talking about student involvement, right? So we're starting at this semester into some fun ways to get involved and doing that. And then any other updates and things that kind of come up. And I will, again, be sending out the email so that you can submit questions, because I really want to make the best use of the time for that hour that we have together. And I'm sure that you never disappoint me with all the questions that you have, which is really great. So I'll stick around for another minute or two, but thank you so much again for joining me live. And if, obviously if you're watching later, hello. And I hope that you have a really great evening, and I hope to see most of you on Sunday. So take care. Have a good night.